of Meghan Markle's American Riviera orchard has been a dismal and abysmal failure. Yes, oh yes, this brand is not off to a good start. Now, granted, Meghan Markle can, of course, turn the ship around. Maybe. But honestly, some of the indicators here are pretty stinking bad. She just passed 500,000 followers very, very early on Sunday morning Eastern Standard Time. And she's still really struggling to grow, and it just doesn't seem like this thing has any direction yet. In fact, to know anything about what's going on with this brand, you have to look at the trademark filings, which is not even sure if she's going to get her trademark in the first place. And we also have the news that she is going to start filming a cooking show with this brand within the next couple weeks. And my question is, well, shouldn't a good branding manager say, hey, launch this Instagram after you have the whole series already in the bank and it's ready to go the next week? I think there are massive warning signs here and red flags and red lights and all these sorts of things going on for this brand. And I think Meghan Markle has done herself absolutely no favors by seemingly to rush this launch. Now, of course, I could be proven totally wrong, but yet at the same time, we got news months ago, like 6+ months ago, that Meghan Markle did have a personal Instagram just named Meghan, and a lot of people have followed it, and that hasn't gone anywhere either. So what's really going on here? And did Meghan Markle set herself up for failure yet again by not making good plans? So we're gonna go over this today, but if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network, my name is Brittany. I provide you all compelling royal commentary about the latest news, sometimes drama going on behind the scenes. So if you guys wanna hit that subscribe button, that would be awesome. I also have an upcoming trip to Scotland, and I also have a deal with Anna Lucia Diamond, so the links for those things will be down below. Okay, so talking about this, last video I went over just how badly the brand was constructed in terms of just the logo and things, and all of that still holds true. In fact, I thought it would be fun to go over some of the random things that people have said the logo looks like, because again, good branding requires a good logo. And when you launch a brand, you want your logo to stand for something. You want it to be recognizable. You want people to go, oh yes, that is the brand. But here's a couple of things that people have suggested for what this brand looks like. I have had people suggest it looks like a smush bug. It looks like maybe a bee with a crown on. It looks like squiggly lines. Some people can read in different letters to it, and I'll get there. Then we also have antlers, like twisted antlers. Somebody said it looked like lady parts. Women's reproductive organs is apparently what it looks like, and I don't think that's entirely wrong either. And I just got lots of things along that line. And then when it comes to the letters within the logo, it should be ARO, American Riviera Orchard. But I've seen people say it looks like HRH. I think something to do with Meghan, like they see an M in there, they say Her Majesty Meghan or something. Like, people see so many different things in this logo. And that's a huge problem going forward, because I think why Meghan Markle's follower count has been so small after she launched this, because yes, I get it, 500,000 followers is huge for most people. But Meghan Markle is a massive name. This news went out all over the world, and the best she could do was 500,000 after 60 hours. So that's pretty poor, especially because her and Harry got to 2.6 million followers within 24 hours. And I think, again, branding here is key. What does this thing stand for? We're just still not even sure. Like, she's gonna sell butters and jams, perhaps, probably candles or something, and cookware, a lot of different things, but we're still just not even sure what direction this whole thing is going in. And of course, when it comes to branding, direction is key, and it should be clear in your logo. But when people can't even figure out what the logo is, oh man, that's a really big problem for her. Now, of course, the problems don't end there. Getting back to the follower count, it's one of those things that's just a billboard, a sign in lights, blinking, flashing, being red, just letting the entire world know that Meghan Markle's brand is damaged. That's what it says. Any outsider business person looking in, especially if they remember the fact that Harry and Meghan at one point set a world record for how fast their channel grew to 1 million followers, which was in 5 hours and 45 minutes. We're now at 72 hours past the launch, and again, she can only hit that little over 500,000 follower mark. And again, I look at that and I think, compared to where she was in 2019 to now, the brand damage is immense. It is huge. There is no walking that back. And I think it was a very, very big mistake on Meghan's part. And this is just from a business perspective. For her not to have the best plan in place ever to launch this. Because she should know, the people around her should know that she is not liked. Her likability factor is low. Yes, she has her sycophantic fans. There was one even who said, oh, she'll get to 1 million followers in 24 hours. Way, way wrong. It took her 72 hours to get to 500,000. So that is pretty bad. But in order to mitigate this and to recognize that her likability, her favorability, her popularity ratings are so stinking low, depending on how the surveyor asks the question, her team should have come up with a gangbuster launch strategy. She should have had the social media account up, multiple things going by this point, because you don't ever want to lose momentum. I feel like when I look at Meghan Markle's brand, it's stuck like 15 years ago. You almost get the sense Meghan Markle is still stuck in her Tig mentality 10 plus years ago when she initially launched it, because I think she did launch in about 2014. And of course, social media changes rapidly. And since I started my account, obviously TikTok has gotten a lot huger. YouTube has introduced shorts to sort of compete with TikTok. I don't really like shorts, but TikTok, I mean, I've had people use my content on TikTok and do really well. And I've had people on Facebook. So like, there's just so many things about the social media landscape that's changing so stinking quickly. And so in order to make a brand effective and a launch effective, you really have to hit the ground running. Like Meghan claims she wants to do with the royal family. But you see here is that there's just crickets. There's just crickets. There's just seemingly nothing going on. And this again will mean that people sort of lose interest, because your initial launch, that initial moment where you introduce a product, introduce a concept, you really need to make that count. You really need to make that matter. You really need to make that good. Now, granted, I probably don't achieve that always on my channel because I tend to get somewhat overwhelmed because I'm doing all of this by myself. But I think if I had a bigger team, we would have a master strategy in place every time I introduce a new concept, every time I introduce a new idea. I would have people who helped me manage that. And that's the thing too, I'm by myself. Meghan Markle has access to some of the best people in the world to do this. And it still looks this bad. It still looks like amateurish. And that not only extends to the logo, not only extends to sort of the color palette that's seemingly being used, which is just beige. Like, she could come up with something better. But it's just in even how it was launched. Even the video, you look at it, it's not even clear what the message is. She's arranging flowers, then she's cooking in the kitchen, okay, so I can get home. And then she's walking out on her veranda in a $5,000 gown. And you're just thinking there, okay, I don't do that. I have a sundress. Like, she would have looked so much better if she had put a sundress on rather than seemingly her $5,000 Carolina Herrera outfit that she recently wore in Jamaica, which sort of makes sense now why she had that. But it's like the disconnect there in that even messaging is startling. And you get this sense that Meghan Markle is so up on her own hype, so arrogant that she doesn't even realize how bad the optics are. And what's surprising as well is that her team, despite being some of the best, they still let her, I'm sure to a certain extent, steamroll them. Because this was not a collaborative effort. I have no doubt in my mind, if a good brand manager was attached to this project, we would be seeing something completely different than what we have right now. And again, what we have right now is very, very poor. It's not good. The quality is bad. Even the logo, it just doesn't look crisp and stand out or anything. Like, just simple things. And yes, I sort of get the idea maybe she was going for, which is a more textured approach. But I feel like that should have been further down the line. She needs to have a strong brand strategy, because at this point, I think she's going to start to lose people, especially if it's going to take us months to get more content, because what we've heard is that Meghan Markle is apparently planning a cooking show. I do have to look up, let's see, I'll put in a clip here of Meghan Markle on Rachel Ray's show, and let's check this out.
And it's just been so amazing, and just the impetus for it, really, I think you'll like this. So the name, the Tig, comes from a wine called, it's actually pronounced Tignanello, but everyone says Tignanello, right? Yeah. But I had a sip of it, and this was maybe like 6-7 years ago, and I went, oh.
It's a game changer.
This is what people are talking about when they talk about the wine or body, like the structure that you find in wine. And I said, it's such an aha moment. It's a Tig moment.
Okay, I didn't actually watch that before I put the clip in, but it is interesting to think that, can Meghan Markle actually give it unique recipes? Is she creating these herself? Or is somebody making all these for her? Because again, I had a live stream and somebody commented on it, which I thought was really good, is that cooking, oftentimes there's a certain bit of, you could almost call it chemistry, an art to it. You don't necessarily, the best chefs don't always follow the rule book or the recipe book verbatim. They add their own little bits and pieces to it. Can Meghan Markle actually do that? And can she be transparent enough about her process, and are they going to actually film in her home? To me, this is a huge question, because I think it would benefit her a lot if they filmed in her home. But yet, her and Harry could not do their interviews for their own stinking documentary in their own home. They had to get a home that was double the price of theirs. So we're talking $30 million and film there. Even though they filmed plenty in their own house, all of a sudden they had to go to this alternative location, which again was very, very odd. And it was probably a ridiculous over expense. So if Meghan Markle can film in her home, I think that would give it a cozy feel, and that's a good thing. But again, she's too much of a control freak, and I don't know if she could do it. And what I think would be interesting too to consider is if she brings her kids on her cooking show, because I think the benefit or the interest in Joanna Gaines somewhat is that she does have quite a few children. She has, I believe, 5 children. And so she has to feed a lot of kids, and she has to make recipes that are appealing to them and healthy for them. And yes, obviously Meghan Markle has kids too, but I think there's something different to the effect of having a large family and a large amount of people to feed rather than something very small. And I think too, Meghan having just catapulted into the stratosphere by snagging Harry, can she really do that more homey thing that Joanna Gaines can do? I think in so many ways, Meghan Markle just cannot compete with Joanna Gaines or Martha Stewart, because I think there is a benefit to starting out small and growing naturally. Meghan Markle's strategy has always been unnatural, and I think that's part of the reason why it just doesn't seem to work with people. She doesn't let things grow organically. You can even see this in her acting career. She didn't try to work on her acting career. She tried to hire a PR team to do it for her. So they put her out in front of people to make it seem like she was very, very successful. But at the same time, she wasn't doing a ton of things behind the scenes. And so it's just all these things together, I think, show a situation where things aren't going super duper well, although they are at the same time. So that's one of the big things that Meghan Markle has to consider as she goes through this entire process. But another thing is, when it comes to their website, now I went on the website and actually did sign up for my email. I did it under the email for my fashion channel, because I thought, well, maybe that won't, hit the system quite the same way, because it says join the waitlist. I was like, okay. And I was expecting a welcome email, because most good brands, if you sign up for their email, they send you a welcome email going, hey, thank you so much for signing up. This is what you can expect. I signed up for Meghan Markle's email for American Riviera Orchard, and what did I get? Big old fat nothing. Let me double check though, just to be sure. Yep, I got absolutely nothing. So what does this tell me? Again, this tells me that this launch was not planned well. You should get a welcome email. Anytime you sign up for an email, generally, I mean, we all have emails that have become junk emails over time because you send too many things to it and you get emailed all the time. It just becomes ridiculous. But you generally get a welcome email of some sort. And I think this would have been good to say for Meghan Markle's team to have a welcome email that just simply says, thank you so much for signing up. We look forward to sharing with you some of what's upcoming in the next couple of weeks. Like, there's not even a time frame of things to come. Not even a time frame. And I'm like, what are you guys thinking? There should always be a time frame. It's just helpful for yourself, because I'm planning on launching this podcast thing, and my deadline and goal for myself is April. Like the first week of April, that is my goal. And I plan on achieving it. I'm a little nervous, but I also, again, have just myself. Meghan Markle has an entire team and millions of dollars, And yet there does not seem to be a start date to any of this. And when it comes to her cooking show, it could be okay. She might be okay at doing that. But the other thing is it's going to start filming in a couple of weeks. It should be done. If you are going to launch this brand as Meghan Markle, 100% you should be totally done filming this series and it should be ready to launch the next week. That it's not is, again, horrifically bad business practice, because this brand is going to grow stale. You want to tease people. You want to bring in more and more. Like, there's no other additional posts. And I'm like, so you're going to let this sit for maybe a couple weeks, a couple of months until the cooking show's done. You actually have people, brands, I guess, signed up to facilitate manufacturing on the products you're going to sell. And that could actually be what's happening here, is that Meghan's having a hard time getting, you could say, capital, getting investors in this particular idea. And so her thought process is, well, why don't we show people how much interest there is by launching it? And I understand somewhat that idea, but she didn't even consider that her brand is so damaged that even just launching it, it shows to the world that, you know, this woman might be on the cover of a bunch of magazines. She might get a lot of column inches in the newspapers. But guess what? Not a lot of people want what she's selling. Not a lot of people want it, because that account should be in the millions by now. Jennifer Aniston, I think, got several million by the end of her 24-hour period, like a 5+ million. And Meghan Markle can't even get 500,000. She was petering at, I think, around 300 something in around 24 hours. So she has gained 200,000 more, but some of them are watching for the train wreck. Some of them are journalists. Some of them are just looky-loos. I mean, I think a smaller percentage of them are her die-hard ride or die fans. And she has a very, very small amount of those. And I think if she was smart, she wouldn't highlight that to the world. And I think this demonstrates too that Netflix CEO recently said, well, they're very good at getting attention, which is true. They are very good at it. But what this whole launch demonstrates to the whole world is that they're not good at keeping it. And they're not good at turning those people into potential consumers, because Meghan Markle's whole future brand is riding on turning her sycophantic followers into consumers. And with that small group of people, she can do that. But with the rest of the public, it's really up for debate. And I think too of Meghan's mirror. I did actually a video of it for my members talking about how my experience with it. And what I found interesting is that this website, it was so curated, so managed. It was, I think, also developed by Article, which is running all of Meghan Markle's websites. And I was looking at it, and when you first went there weren't any ads on that page, because I think the idea was people are going to buy so much of what she's selling, which are her outfits, that the company doesn't even have to have any ads on there. But when I went there recently, there are ads all over the place. And what does that tell you? People aren't buying the stuff. They've sort of abandoned a couple of their social media accounts, like they're not updating in them anymore. And granted, yes, she's not a royal, but I also think she's not generating business for them. She's not generating consumers. And that's a huge warning flag. And the other thing I want to talk about real quick when it comes to the branding is how old the name sounds. Meghan Markle, for all her statements of progressivism, for all her activism and everything, the brand name she picked, American Riviera Orchard, is very stale. People have said it sounds like a retirement home, and it does. It just does not sound young, hip, fashionable. Goop, if you compare it to that, Goop sounds interesting. Goop, you could hate it, you could think the whole thing is stupid, but that name sticks to you. You remember it. It's fascinating. Like, I have to think about Meghan Markle's name, American Riviera Orchard. I have to think about it because it's so long. And it just doesn't even flow. It doesn't feel like it goes together at all. And I had an idea for something like a different word she could have used that represents a wildflower in California. And it's, although the word is sort of hard to pronounce, it's shorter. There's nothing else competing with it. Like, she's competing right now with a bank, with a media company, with just so many things, because she picked the initial name that's American Riviera Orchard, which can't be shortened because there's a lot of things that share the American Riviera name. So it's like, how in the world is she supposed to manage this brand? And again, I think of it and it sounds like something that is being sold at Walmart, at Target, and is like appealing to an older generation. And Meghan Markle's fans are younger people. So what did you think? She'd try to come up with a better brand name. But I think all this comes back to one simple thing. It's entirely Meghan Markle running the show, and she is not listening to any constructive advice. Because I would call people telling her it's a bad brand name, the look is bad, the logo is bad. That's not criticism in terms of coming from a bad place. That is honest assessment of what she's done and telling her, hey, this isn't going to go well. This is not a good name. This is not going to generate interest by people in what you're doing. It's just not. So I think Meghan has shot herself in the foot yet again because it always seems to come back to her. And if I was WME, if I was William Morrison Endeavor, her talent agency, I would have let her go by now. Because if she can't take advice, if she can't take constructive criticism about her choices, if she can't let professionals run things, yes, here's the thing you have to do if you are running a business empire, you could say. And I've thought about this because I've thought about all the things I want to do with my channel. My thing is that I want to have something where people can tell me, oh, maybe you want to try this, maybe you want to try that, or get two ideas coming at me and I choose which one goes. And if I try it for a while and it doesn't work, hey, maybe I go to the other thing. And I would say in this space, my instincts have been fairly good, so I haven't really had to do that too much. But I have found things that don't work, and I try to do things like, for example, just even my thumbnails, the color I use in my thumbnail is red and white. It's always gonna be red and white. Why? Because it sticks out to people. And I noticed after a while, when I did it sort of in more of that color, they tended to do better. Because for a while, I would sort of try to match it to the picture and try to be more fashionable. I'm like, no, let's do red and white. And then on my fashion channel, even though it doesn't match my brand colors, I do bright pink and white. And I think the bright pink is just there, it's just kind of girly, and it's the girly channel. We talk about royal fashion and tiaras, and it sticks out to people. And so I stick to that. And that's part of branding too, is like, you know, those colors and it clicks the switch in your brain and go, oh yeah, I remember that. I like that, the channel. And that is all part of brand strategy, but I feel like none of that is around Meghan. And I think that's because she's running the show, and the people who could help her, the people who generally want to help her, because there are people who want her to be successful because it benefits them as she is. And she just can't seem to take anybody's advice. She can't seem to let anybody else try to run the ship to an extent. But the best business people, yes, you have to be somebody at the top who makes the hard, fast decisions sometimes. But also, you have to have people who you trust to run other things for you. Like at some point, I'd love to have a video editor that I can pay full time. And because of that, I could leave all this stuff to them and I could work on the other things I just can't get around to because I'm so busy worrying about all these other things. And so Meghan is doomed to fail. This launch was an abysmal disaster, but Meghan only really has herself to blame because once again, she could have all the help in the world, but she chooses to go it alone. And I think she's going to find that once again, this brand doesn't go very well, that she's struggling to make things connect. And that's because Meghan Markle thinks that mama knows best. But when it comes to Meghan, she just really doesn't in this space. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think Meghan Markle's logo looks like. I want your thoughts. So thanks for watching, and I shall see you guys soon. Bye.